Yeah, yeah. That was just a blue around here.
No, he's late. Nada.
Right, come on guys, start singing, he's here!
Come on. Taking too long, everyone's got fed up of singing.
Who do we want?
Okay.
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. Morning, everybody! Can we give a special welcome to Jeremy Corbyn? Look, we've got 2 days to go to the general election. This is the second time in a short space of time that Jeremy's been here in Pendle. He came to Victoria Park, he visited a food bank in Barlick, and he's back today. You know, on the doorstep, we listen to the national media, the BBC, Sky, and they say nothing about what Labour wants to do and just talk about that Boris. And what we're going to do on Thursday is sack Boris. So we want in Pendle, we want in this area a better NHS. We want books for our schools. We want to get rid of poverty and homelessness. We want to get rid of food banks. And we want to get rid of this Tory government. We want a white Christmas. We want Jesuit number 10. And that's why I'm so proud to stand as a candidate for Jeremy Corbyn, as Jeremy's candidate in Pendle. And we're going to turn Pendle red. So what I need from you before Jeremy speaks is on Thursday I want every one of you knocking on doors around Pendle, Briarfield, Nelson, Barford, Combe, Barlick, Airby and the villages, because if we become Labour on Friday morning, we turn Pendle red, number 10's red as well. So anyway, further ado, please welcome the next Prime Minister, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Sorry for a bit late coming. We've got an awful lot of campaign stops to do. Starting last Saturday morning, I've got a scarf back, thank you. Starting last Saturday morning, we're covering the whole of the country. We've been all over Wales, we've been in the Midlands, we're here in the Northwest, we're going to Scotland, North East, East Midlands, finish up with a big rally in London on Wednesday night. And you know what? We've got more people coming out and helping us and working in this campaign than we even had in 2017, because there's an absolute determination to win this election. That means you don't spend your time worrying about what well-paid commentators comment about each other's commentary, about what their commentary is, about what they think Labour ought to be doing. Instead, you trust yourselves. Trust yourselves on what our society and our country needs. You trust yourselves on what our party is putting forward in this election. And my team get really annoyed with me because I speak for too long at every meeting we go to. And the reason I do that is there's so much to say and so much to talk about. We've got down here a group of women who've done a fantastic job, fantastic campaigning. They have brought home to everybody the truth, the reality of the way the WASPy women have been treated. Absolutely outrageous. They were misled in 2011. They've lost large amounts of money as a result of that. And when we announced that we would bring justice to the WASPy women, what they're saying was, well, hang on a minute, some of those women don't deserve it. They're a bit better off than the others. What an outrage. Our whole society and system means you pay in with your tax, with your national insurance, and out of that you get the security of getting a pension when you get older. You don't get shortchanged by a shortchanging government of Tories and Lib Dems, which is exactly what happened in 2011. So I am determined our government will bring justice to the WASPy women. And what I want to say is, I love the colours of the campaign. They're the suffragette colours, fantastic. And the way you've done that campaigning is brilliant. And there is so much else that we have to deal with. You mentioned universal credit and the poverty that goes with it. Just think, this is modern Britain, the 5th richest country in the world, in the year 2019. If somebody had said to me when I was growing up as a kid that by 2019 there'd be 4 million children living in poverty, there'd be 130,000 children this Christmas without the certainty of knowing where their home's going to be, that 1.5 million uses a year are made of food banks all over Britain, that there's a mental health crisis brought about by that level of stress, that 1 million people don't know what their income, their wage is going to be, even though they're in work, because they're on a 0 hours contract, and that so many young people, having worked really hard, studied really hard to get to college and university, then end up with debts of 50 or 60,000 pounds. I would have said that cannot be right. None of that can be right. That is the price we are all paying of austerity that was imposed on us in 2010 by the Tories and the Liberal Democrats. So when they say our manifesto is bold, too right it's bold. It needs to be bold. And they say there's a lot in the manifesto. Dead right. There is a lot in the manifesto, because there's an awful lot of things that need to be put right in this country. And so we address the issue of poverty and inequality, of children's underachievement in schools, by dealing with the housing crisis, the income crisis, and the investment that's needed in schools. When more than 500,000 children are being taught in oversized classes, many also taught by unqualified teachers, you've got to say something is badly, badly wrong. The legacy of the 1945 to 51 Labour government was the creation of the welfare state, but particularly the National Health Service, the principle of healthcare free at the point of need. And I'll come back to that in one moment. The legacy of our government is going to be the creation of a national education service, where education is a right, not a commodity to be bought and sold, not a privilege. Schools properly funded, college places properly supported, university degrees properly funded through ending the fees, but also the vocational education through apprenticeships treated as equally valuable and also supported, because we need everybody to be better educated and equipped for the future in this country. But it's also about our health service. When we do the information studies around the country, what do we find? One hospital after another in a crisis. The story that was in yesterday's papers about that little boy found being treated on the floor in Leeds, sadly, is not that unexceptional around the country. The shortage of beds, the shortage of nurses, the shortage of doctors, the shortage of radiologists, and the shortage of funding in our NHS is an absolute scandal. We will put 26 billion into the NHS to make sure it is properly funded. But we will also deal with the other crisis that affects it, that is the social care crisis, where more than 1 million are waiting for social care because the places are not available, and often that means a backup of people remaining in hospital longer than they should because the social care is not available. Well, you have to fix both things at the same time. Therefore, our care service will provide free personal care for those that need social care, and cap the amount of money they have to pay if they're going into non-domiciliary care. It is about treating people decently in our society, and I'm utterly determined that we achieve that. That is the whole core that runs through our manifesto. But our NHS is under threat for other reasons as well. Since 2010, when they passed the Health and Social Care Act, 10 billion of privatisation has already happened in the NHS. And when companies that bid for a contract in the NHS, or even announce they might bid for a contract, don't get it, then sue the NHS, shame on them, shame on the government that passed that legislation. I want our NHS to be properly funded, publicly owned and publicly run. And that surely is what there's the least we can do in government. But it's under threat for another reason as well. Boris Johnson and Theresa May have been in secret negotiations with American companies for 2 years. We exposed that, but we exposed those documents. Exposed those documents where they would raise the price of medicines for our NHS by extending the patent life of American medicines, and on their proposed trade deal with the United States would open up what they euphemistically refer to as the health market in Britain. There is no health market. We have a National Health Service, and it will always be a National Health Service with us. We are simply not going to sell this service. So a Labour government coming in will have huge demands placed on it, and we're delighted to meet those needs and meet those demands. It will be about ending universal credit. It will be about ending the indignity of the poverty that so many people face, and investing properly in our public services. And they say, how are you going to pay for this? Yeah, good question. We've done a grey book which itemises every single thing we will spend. We're the only party that's done that. We're the only party that opens ourselves up to scrutiny to do that. The Prime Minister might choose to hide the images he doesn't like, and avoid the interviews he doesn't want, and avoid the questions he can't answer. We are out there open and democratic and answerable to people. That is what an election campaign should be about. And so we will be funding all of this by raising taxes for the richest 5% in our society. 95% of the population will see no change in income tax or national insurance, but they will see huge benefits. Benefits of a living wage of £10 an hour, benefits of rights at work from day one, benefits of better social care and a better education system. But it's also about jobs and investment for the future. Ever since the 1980s, when Margaret Thatcher and the Tories took a wrecking ball to the manufacturing industry all across Britain, communities have lost their sense of purpose, lost their jobs, and lost their manufacturing base. It is about investment in infrastructure needs all across the country. The National Investment Bank will be investing in big infrastructure projects like Crossrail for the North, and will also be moving government offices out of London. John McDonnell's determination is to move the Treasury, I think, to Anfield Football Stadium. That obviously divides the crowd because you're not Liverpool supporters, I fully understand that. But it is about investment and regional investment banks as well, which will ensure that investment in good quality training and jobs all across the Northwest, so that the towns that have seen so little and lost so much in the way of industry will see that investment and that rejuvenation. We deal with the crisis of the world's environment and climate change by investing in a green industrial revolution, investing in retrofitting homes, investing in supporting people to live better, but also to look after our planet better as well. And I want to lead a Labour government that will work with other governments all around the world to strengthen the Paris Climate Change Accord, not weaken it. And I'll be proud to host COP26 in Britain next year. Our government has so much to achieve and will be such a voice on the world stage for justice, for human rights and for peace around the world, because that is what we want to go into government to do, to bring about these changes. We're not going to do it on our own, it's what all of us do. So when we campaign up until Thursday night at 10 o'clock, don't let up. Many people are still making up their minds how to vote. I simply say this: under Labour, we'll protect those jobs and industries and that necessary trade with Europe. We will also ensure that our public services are properly funded and our NHS is not destroyed on the altar of free market economics. Because that is what our party was founded to achieve. And so, over these last 2 days of the election, don't get tired, get invigorated by the rain, get invigorated by the cold, get brisk in your walking, but also knock on all those doors and make sure that this becomes a Labour gain, so that in Pendle you make your contribution to getting a Labour majority in Parliament to end the injustice of poverty and inequality that so disfigures modern Britain. And it will be Labour that will be proud to achieve that. And on Friday, you'll have an early Christmas present.
Thank you all for coming and give more cheer for Jeremy Corbyn.
Sitting!
You should be fucking ashamed of yourself.
Why is that?
Fucking kids on the floor in hospital.